can we justify, or how can we explain that a large part of the world's population gives free rein to anti-Semitism, hatred of the Jew, after the atrocities of October 7th, 2 years ago? Any thinking person has to conclude that after the vile murder of more than 1,200 innocent people and the capture of more than 200 hostages, Israel would have to respond with full force. It is not a question of revenge, but you must ensure that there is no repetition of that barbaric attack in the future. You have to eliminate the murderers and doing everything possible in order to rescue the hostages. Israel took great pains in trying to prevent harm to civil populations. But in every war, and we have seen it during the Second World War, where thousands of people unfortunately died also. The innocent suffer when there is a war. There are many that argue that the Gazans, the people in Gaza, actually chose Hamas, and they admire the actions of Hamas. There must also be, for sure, those that disagree with the October 7th massacre. But how do you explain that so many thinking people blame Israel and stop taking into account that what is happening is really a consequence of what happened on October 7th? It seems that the impetus for this stance, the root for this, is hatred. Hatred is a condition that does not respond to reasoning. It arises maybe from the necessity of looking for a scapegoat, because we don't have the courage to really confront our own errors and failures in society. And for centuries, the Jewish people, perhaps because they're the only ones who practice the Jewish religion, the Jewish people have been the object of that hatred. It goes back centuries ago, even before Christianity, even though Christianity, of course, added the fact that Judaism killed God. Well, that is terrible, of course. There are some who think something altogether different. They say, you know why Judaism is rejected? Because they introduced the notion of guilt into human lexicon. Guilt that is a result of immoral behavior. A large part of humanity does not forgive the intrusion of this feeling of guilt in a life that really should applaud pleasure. This is what we are here for in this world, for pleasure. And the hate is responsible for the idea that Jews control the world economy. In the beginning, they were communists. Then, because they're anti-communists. First, because they're stateless. Now, because they have a state. First, because they're weak. Now, because they're very strong. Well, the ubiquitous presence of the internet has fed into that, because it's promoted a kind of group think. Because there are many, many posts on the internet that are really anti-Jewish, truly anti-Semitic pronouncements. And this modality of blaming the strongest and the richest without analyzing the reason why conflict really exists is another ingredient. The division of humanity into oppressors and those that are oppressed without justifying it already. There are many that have already said that, notices news really don't change opinions. What they do actually is accentuate prejudices. When you are really the owner of some anti-Semitic feeling and you read something that is anti-Jewish, that deepens your anti-Semitism. On the other hand, if you read something pro-Jewish, you don't pay any attention to it. I am actually recording these words hours before the release of the hostages in Gaza, thanks to President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. It will be interesting to read the reaction of those who do not support either Trump or Netanyahu, to see what arguments they will present to minimize the effectiveness of their action. Because hate is really irrational. It is a function of ceasing to confront rationally reality, to look at the roots really of events. I think we human beings have to arm ourselves with courage to face our weaknesses and omissions. We will have taken, I think, the first step to eliminate irrational hatred if we are able to look honestly at where we fail in order to become better human beings, in order to become contributors to the betterment of society in which we live.